Radio 418.
What's up, beautiful people? This is John Montagna, and you're listening to Radio 418. Thank you so much for checking in on the podcast. This is my show where I talk to my fellow musicians about the life in music. My guest today is IAIN LEE, noted English radio and television presenter, as they say in the UK, but I know him, and perhaps you know him, as one of the founders of 7A Records, which is an indie label that specializes in all things monkeys related. Rare tracks, obscure tracks, live tracks, stuff that's been out of print for a long time. Stuff that is super cool to obsessive monkeys fans like myself. The latest product is a CD called Listen to the Bands, which is 25 Monkeys cover versions by indie artists from all over the country, including yours truly. That's right, I contributed a track to this thing. What a thrill and a half it was to do this. I don't know if there's some sort of a conflict of interest here. If the host and producer of a podcast is promoting a CD that he's on himself. But I mean, what's this conflict of interest? What does that even mean anymore? Right? I don't think there's any sort of emoluments clause that prevents me from talking about the CD that I'm on my own podcast. But in any case, obviously Ian and I have been corresponding over the last couple of weeks and months while I've been on this thing. And a couple of weeks ago, I saw he was going to be in New York, here in the States, doing some radio and podcasty type things. And I wrote him an email. I was like, hey, you're going to be in my town. Why don't you come on my podcast and we'll talk about 7A and this and that. He says, yeah, sounds great. And then we both kind of dropped the ball and forgot about it. And I remembered yesterday morning, I was walking the dog. I was walking Luba, the podcast puppy. And as I do every morning when I'm walking Luba, I go over the coming events of the day. What am I doing today? What's going on today? What do I have going on? I was like, oh, it's Wednesday, June 14th. Why does that date ring a bell? Why does that sounds familiar to me? I was like, oh my God, IAIN LEE. That was one of the dates that I had suggested to him. So I sent him a frantic email on the phone. And on my way into the city, I was going into the city anyway to do errands. So on my way out, I grabbed my gear. I grabbed my my recorder and my mics and shoved them into my Merce just in case I was able to run into him. Long story short, we exchanged a couple of direct messages on Twitter. And he's like, I'm in Chelsea. I was like, I'm not too far. I'll be there in 20 minutes. And I like raced across town and caught up with him. Don't give up just before the miracle, friends. If you think something might happen, you know, like I could have easily just said, he's not going to respond. I'm just going to get back in the train. No, I hung out in the city just long enough to where he got back to me and he was like, I've got 40 minutes. I said, I'm on my way. Jumped on a bus, ran down 23rd Street. He was in a Starbucks and it was noisy in there. So we went across the street to the Chelsea Diner. We had a tremendous conversation about 7A Records. We geeked out on being Monkeys fanboys a little bit together. I'm going to share that conversation with you in just a few minutes. But first, a little bit of business up front. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're obviously, you've found the new Radio 418 feed. As I've mentioned on earlier episodes, we're now hosted by Podbean. I love Podbean. Great customer service, great website, unlimited storage, friends. That's the deal that I have. So I'm not going to hit a storage limit, and I'm not going to see earlier episodes disappear like they were on the old feed, the old host, which is going to go away. When that account expires, I'm not renewing it. All of those early episodes will get reposted. All the classic interviews that I did in 2013 with the Happy Together Tour principals, and in 2014 again. All those classic interviews, those will get reposted on the new feed. So they're not going to disappear forever. But the old feed's going to go away. The new feed is on iTunes. So that's a good thing. Right now, they're both on iTunes. How am I going to tell the difference, John? I'm glad you asked. When I posted the new feed, I put a space between radio and 418, okay? So on the new one, it says Radio 418. It says the word radio and then a space and then 418. On the old one, there's no space. That's how I was able to be slick and differentiate. So like I said, I don't know how iTunes works. If when the old account gets deleted, if the feed gets deleted from iTunes, I'm really not sure how that works. But if you're listening to me now, you have found the new show, and that's all that matters. And when in doubt, go to the dedicated website that Podbean allows me to have. That's the other cool thing about Podbean. I now have radio418.com that you can go to. You can subscribe to the show through there, but you have to create an account with Podbean. So the easiest thing to do really is to either subscribe on iTunes or just go to radio418.com and stream the show. That's the other way you can do it. However you do it is fine with me as long as you're doing it. So, welcome. What else I want to tell you about? If you're in the New York area, the New York City area on Sunday, July 9th, I'm doing a show that I'm very excited about. I'm hosting a 77th birthday Ringo Starr birthday tribute at the Cutting Room, 44 East 32nd Street here in New York City. Ringo's turning 77 this year, and I just thought it was high time that we did a tribute show. And we did a full set of his solo tracks, which I've always loved his solo stuff. There's just an earthiness and just a rootsy quality to those records that I've always loved. And I've always wanted to do a set live of those tunes. So now I'm doing it. Sunday, July 9th, 7:30 Downbeat at the Cutting Room, 44 East 32nd Street. Bennett Pastor on keys, my buddy, who I did an interview with on this show a couple of months back. Anthony Babino on guitar, Stephen Babino on bass, Benny Landa on lead guitar, Ethan Eubanks on drums. And I'm going to be playing guitar in this show. I'm not playing bass. I'm playing guitar on this one. Mainly doing rhythm, doing a couple of leads, going to bust out with some slide guitar. I get to play slide guitar about once a year. And I don't know, for whatever reason, when I was putting this show together, I thought, you know what? All those George Harrison guitar leads on those tracks, I thought, you know what? I want to play those and get a bass player. And it all kind of came together after that. Really psyched to play with Bennett. Ethan I haven't played with yet. I saw him play the other night at a place called Barcord here in Brooklyn in Ditmas Park. He's in a band called 41 Players, which is like a New Orleans type of vibe that they do every Monday night there. And my God, what a pocket that cat's got. That's going to be a lot of fun doing that show with him behind the kit. And Anthony and Stephen Babino I've known since they were kids. Monster musicians, those guys. Benny Landa's the shit on guitar, on lead. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Once again for the world, Sunday, July 9th, 7:30 p.m. Downbeat, the Cutting Room, 44 East 32nd Street. Tickets available at thecuttingroomnyc.com. And you can find a link to the Cutting Room ticket website via my website, johnmontagna.com. Why would I send you to one website just to go to another website? Because I just wanted to plug my website, johnmontagna.com. I figured that was a good way to do it. But yeah, $15 in advance, $20 at the door, and Cutting Room pours a nice drink too. And it's a nice room. I don't know if you've been to the new space for the Cutting Room. I was at the old space a lot back in the day. The new room is fantastic. Steve Walter's done a great job over there, making a nice comfy room to listen to music in and play music in. So really looking forward to that. IAIN Lee, let's get to our guest here. 7A Records. He and his partner Glenn Gretland founded 7A Records as a means to license some rare Mickey Dolenz singles. That project became Mickey Dolenz, the MGM Singles Collection, and that's available on Amazon and on deepdiscount.com, as all of the 7A Records items are. They've got the Bobby Hart solo album. They've got An Evening with Peter Noon and Mickey Dolenz. It was a live conversation between those two guys. Just some great, great stuff. It's a real labor of love with these guys. And now listen to the bands, the cover CD, which, by the way, is a charity disc that benefits the Davy Jones Equine Memorial Foundation. You know what? Ian goes into more detail about all this stuff in our conversation, so I'm just going to take you right to the Chelsea Diner to my conversation with IAIN Lee.
Radio 480. Open your eyes, get up off your chair. There's so much to do in the sunlight. Give up your secrets and let down your hair and sit with me here by the firelight.
Ask me anything you want, sir.
Okay. Well, that's, I appreciate the no notice.
This is good. I love this, and I love your style because this is my style. This is we talked ages ago about, hey, I'm coming to New York. Oh, would you mind if I interviewed you? Perfect.
Right.
And then we both forgot.
Yes,
And
that's right.
suddenly I get a message saying, "Are you around today?"
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, I'm in Chelsea.
Yeah.
I'm near Chelsea.
It's right.
I'll see you in 20
That's right. And it was one of those things where I had errands to do anyway. I had to get a haircut. I had to go to Trader Joe's. So I said, well, I'm in Manhattan. Let me just take a chance. I'm in Chelsea. And it was one of those things where it was like, was going to hop in a cab, but the traffic wasn't moving. I got on a bus, and then the bus wasn't moving. And then finally it crossed 23rd Street. I'm like, oh, it overshoots me by half a block. So I'm running down the street. It's been a while since I did like a mad run through the streets of New York. But it's good for you.
I feel bad because we were in a Starbucks and there's all these amazing diners around here and bars and cafes.
That's right.
But we needed their Wi-Fi because we're doing. Me and my producer Kath are here. We're doing a radio show. Right. We needed their Wi-Fi to send files over. So that's why. Instead of being in these amazing diners where, we're in this great deli now,
right? We
were sat in Starbucks. I feel a little bit of a Philistine.
And now what about the Wi-Fi at the hotel?
The Wi-Fi at the hotel is good.
Yeah.
But we were out this morning and then we're off this afternoon to WFMU, the radio station, to go and interview people there and do our show from there.
Okay.
So we were just out and about, So,
you have an
but thank you for coming over to
meet me. Oh, it's my pleasure.
And
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. We have been communicating via email for a while now.
That's right.
And you contributed a wonderful track for the Listen to the Bands, the Monkees tribute CD. I've kind of helped put out with my friend Glenn.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, man.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And you've played bass with the Turtles.
That's right. I was the bass. I was the bassist on and off since 2010 in the house band of the Happy Together tours.
Yeah.
So
you played with legends. I mean, I
Played
love
with- that's right.
Howard Kalen and
Yeah.
both of them, but the Mark, but Howard, one of the best voices in
That's
pop
correct.
ever.
That's correct.
Ever.
Absolutely. And a wonderful guy. One of the joys of doing that gig is to get a chance to hang out and talk to those guys.
Yeah.
And you can learn so much just by being around them like this. I interviewed him for the podcast.
Yeah. Oh,
he's
he's got stories to tell.
I knew it was just like turn the thing on
Yeah.
and go.
Yeah.
And because I really was fascinated with the fact that these guys are all like in their mid to late 60s and seemingly like in the prime of their lives. A
Yeah.
lot of them are enjoying their careers even more now than they
Do you
were
remember
then.
when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
And people in their 50s and 60s looked really, really
That's correct.
old.
That's correct.
They would, literally in their late 50s, they
Right.
would sit in a corner and their little, in our country, little cloth caps on and
Yeah,
they'd
yeah.
have a pint of beer
Yeah.
and they wouldn't say anything or do anything.
done,
And that
right.
was it. They're done.
That's
they were
right.
done.
Right.
And now, the artists, I know we have a lot of common interests.
Yeah.
I was watching a video on Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees.
Sure,
Right? Was
sure.
he 72, 73?
Something like that, yeah.
And there's a great clip of him from this week on some breakfast TV show. He's
Right.
being interviewed
Yeah.
and a gospel choir
I saw
comes
that,
in
yeah. That's
singing
great.
I'm a Believer. Now, I'm sure you've interviewed younger artists who
Yeah.
go, you're not going to ask me to sing, are you? Because I'm not warmed up.
Right.
He starts joining
He
in.
starts joining in. Yeah.
He's doing it. And these artists now, you're right, in their 60s and their 70s.
That's right.
They're putting on these. I went and I took my two kids to see the Beach Boys and Mike Love.
Oh, yeah.
He's 74, 75. 2.5 hour show.
That's right.
It's amazing.
That's right. Why do you think that is? Or have you thought about it?
I don't know. I think they're like sharks, a lot of these people. And for a shark to stay alive, it's got to keep moving.
That's
and
correct.
As soon as the shark stops, it's dead.
I think you're onto
And
something
I wonder
there,
if
yeah.
some of those artists, it's the same for them. It's the thing that keeps them going.
What am I going to... You know what? I've been thinking about this recently because next month I'm doing a Ringo Starr tribute show.
Oh, wow.
I'm doing a full set at the Cutting Room of his solo tunes.
Wow.
Really underrated stuff.
Yeah.
Don't Come Easy, Back Off Boogaloo, all those tracks. And so I've been going down this Ringo rabbit hole the last
Yeah,
couple
good
of
for you.
weeks and days, kind of like getting all the background information on the
Yeah.
songs. And what I find interesting about Ringo is that when he got sober in 87, 88,
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
the first thing he did was put a band together and go on the road.
Yeah.
And he hasn't stopped.
Yeah, constant.
And I just thought that was really interesting. Like he was up until that point content to just be a celebrity
Yeah.
and show up and do a guest appearance every now and then.
That's a great Ringo.
Thank you.
You just mimed Ringo's drumming, and that wrist action was spot on. That's what he
Thank
does.
you. Well, that's what comes from having an unhealthy obsession. But I just thought it was really fascinating. Here's this guy, he like sobers up.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what do you want to do with your life? And he says, I want to play in a band.
Yeah.
And he puts the band together. And every year since 1989,
Constant.
I think he's done the All-Star Band. I thought that
My
he's a guy that
favorite-
loves the work.
My favorite Ringo Starr song,
Yeah.
"Weight of the World." Do you know
Yeah.
that one?
Oh, yeah.
It's a Beatles rip-off, but
Sure.
he's allowed to rip off the Beatles. He was in them.
That's
a
right.
great song.
That's a great track.
I met him once. I interviewed him.
Really?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I interviewed him. It's the only Beatle I've met.
Okay.
And we went to Apple headquarters in London. And this is when I was at a music station.
Is it still 3 Savile Row?
No, it's not.
They
It's
moved it. Okay.
Yeah, they've moved it. It's a really swish office.
Okay.
And this was about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And we're there, we're waiting, and I'm nervous. And he walked in, and
Yeah.
I'd been on TV that morning doing a
Yeah.
little interview about something.
Sure.
And he walked in and pointed and went, "I know you."
Oh my God.
Wow. And I'm there going, and I know who you are, man.
Right. Sure. Sure.
So it's a lovely interview,
Nice.
I talked to him about Mickey. I said, you should get Mickey Dolenz to be in your all-star band.
Yeah.
He went, Mickey Dolenz,
Yeah.
he's crap. Joking and stuff. But
Right. I've talked to a lot of people that have interviewed him or met him or
Yeah.
been around him. The air in the room kind of changes
Yeah.
when a Beatle walks in, right?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I have a friend of mine called Mackenzie Crook, and I used
Okay.
to be roommates with him. And
Okay.
he's an actor in the UK, and
Yeah.
he was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
He is friends with Paul McCartney.
Wow.
Because he was in a Paul McCartney video. I can't remember what song it was. About 6-7 years ago, he plays a postman in a Paul McCartney video. And he's friends with Paul McCartney. And
Okay.
I just want to sit there and go,
Like,
so what's he like? Show me his phone number on your phone.
Yeah.
When you went out for dinner, what?
Yeah.
And of course, you know, I've got to kind of play it cool because he's one of my friends, and it's, you know, I don't. But
Sure, but
inside I'm thinking, you're friends with a Beatle.
Right. How do you?
It doesn't get any better than that.
Do you find that in your business, because I did a little bit of research on you. I didn't realize you're kind of a big deal over in England.
No, I had a brief period of slight fame about 15 years ago. That's worn off now.
On television or
TV?
radio?
Yeah, I did a couple of TV shows.
The Breakfast Show.
I did Rise was the breakfast show. Before that, I did a thing called the 11 o'clock show, which is where Sacha Baron Cohen and Ricky Gervais started out. I was kind of in a pool with them. I don't know what happened to those guys. I know. I haven't heard of them.
I hope
for
it
years.
works out for them. They're so talented.
They had some funny things going. So I had like a brief, what I call my pop career, where I had like 2 or 3 years of doing high profile TV.
Sure.
And since then, it's, you know, the profile's gone down, but I'm paying the mortgage and I'm feeding the kids, doing radio shows and stuff like that.
That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that was going to be one of my questions because you and I are roughly the same age.
Yeah.
And
you're younger than me. If we're roughly the same age, you're wearing it a hell of a lot better than me.
Well, thanks. I just was, you know, you've been in broadcasting since
about 20 years.
Okay. And maybe this is too obvious a question.
Yeah.
How has it changed in the last couple of years as new media occurs? I mean, I'm interviewing you in a diner, but I mean, is it, you know? Well,
it's completely different. The fact that you've traveled across town and you're recording me on a tiny little box. Mm-hmm. It's not a cassette, you know, a cassette. But get people listening going, what? What's a cassette?
Yeah.
You know, and this will be broadcast quality. Yeah. My producer is in another cafe just over the road. Yeah. And this morning we went and interviewed Kenny Kramer. She's editing it. She's going to send that to London. That'll get played out tonight. So everything is more portable.
Sure.
Everything has the potential to be international. You know, again, the
international thing blows me away.
Yeah.
You know,
you must have listeners all around the world.
I do. And not a huge number.
No.
But when I get emails from South America, from India, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But do you find when you're interviewing celebrities that you have to maintain this veneer of sort of being cool enough to not be too affected, but at the same time, you've got this enthusiasm for their work?
Do you know what? That's a really, really good question.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky. The show I'm doing now, the late night radio show in the UK, I only get people on that I'm a huge fan of. I have that luxury where, you know, we get the email, such and such has got a book or a tour. Doesn't interest me.
Right.
Me and Kath sit there and we go through our record collection, go, well, let's invite John Sebastian from The Loving Spoonful on, or Roger McGuinn. And they come on, you know. So
this is like over the phone or Skype or whatever?
Over the phone, yeah.
Right.
Here's the thing. If you go to, I guess it's johnsebastian.com, and you email the thing, it's John Sebastian that replies to you.
That's right.
It's insane.
It's amazing how accessible some of these guys are.
So there is, I kind of quite often have to pull back my enthusiasm, you know, because I know more about these people than they know about themselves.
Yeah.
You know? So I kind of, but it works for me in as much as, for example, John Sebastian, when he came on, we didn't start off with Summer in the City or Daydream or something. I played an obscure track off of a 1975 solo album.
Right.
And instantly he goes, whoa, you're playing that?
Yeah.
Thank you. I've never even heard that on the radio.
Right.
And we spent the whole interview talking about the Monkees and tie-dye, you know.
Right.
You know, so
anything else? Sure.
Yeah, because I know how the band got together. I know
That's
so
right.
much about them.
That's
I don't want to do the usual kind of questions. We had Mike Love from the Beach Boys. Huge Beach Boys fan. And also, I'm a huge Mike Love defender. I think the history of rock and roll has that they want to blame Mike Love for Brian Wilson's drug dependency and his mental illness. And I think Mike Love's got, you know, a tough bargain out of it. And I think he wrote some of the greatest pop lyrics of all time. The lyrics to California Girls.
Sure.
That's teen poetry.
That's right.
And we had Mike Love on. I'm going to say a rude word, so you might have to bleep it. I don't know. But I've read his autobiography.
Yeah.
And in it, at the beginning of chapter 2 or 3, he has a very specific story about something he taught to Dennis Wilson. So one of the first questions, I said, Mike, Is it true you taught Dennis Wilson about cunnilingus? And you could hear him blushing over the phone. He's going, well, maybe I was a little bit too honest in the book, but yes, I did tell him about that. And, and we won him over straight away by not asking. So how did you guys get to, who cares how they got, I know how they got together.
I had this conversation with Mark Volman when I started doing podcasts from the road. 2013, Happy Together. I had the gear out with me, and I said, I'm going to interview all the principals. I'm going to get them on. It's going to be great. And Volman hangs out on the bus with the band, and he's watching me edit this. My first interview was with Gary Lewis.
Wow. There you
and
go.
It was like 3 days of me chopping this interview together. And he comes on the bus. He says, you're still editing this interview? This is ridiculous. And he got me to shut the computer down, and we talked it out. And he says, what are you trying to achieve with this thing? He says, people can go on Wikipedia and learn about our histories. Okay. You've got access. And I kind of felt this, but I couldn't articulate. He articulated it a lot better for me. You've got access to us in ways that other journalists don't have. All these guys, all these artists trust you. And what is it that interests you about us? I said, well, I just think it's really interesting. You guys, at the age you're at, you're still. He says, so that's what you need to focus on. Don't go down the history of the band. And then you did this album, and what was that like? From that point on, all of the conversations got way deeper and way heavier. Those are the stories that I want to try to tell.
That's really smart of Mark to have made that connection, because I'm sure you've spoken to people who they just want to trot out. They do want to trot out the same stories. You know, they've got their spiel, their 15-minute interview spiel, and they'll sit there and they'll tell you that. So for Mark to be aware of that, I've not interviewed Mark yet. He's on the list. He's on the. He was poorly, wasn't he? But he's come out the other side of it.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has.
Great.
He's done quite well.
One of the great harmony singers of all time, and a skill that's often overlooked. You know, people would quite often. You look at videos of the Turtles, you go, "Hey, who's that funny fat guy with the bow tie?" But you listen to what he's doing and how he plays off Howard. One of my favorite things, and sometimes it's on YouTube and then they pull it, is Happy Together. Just the vocals.
Oh yeah.
It's angels.
Oh sure.
And you think the Beach Boys, were the only band that could do that. You listen to the Turtles, Happy Together. Just the vocals. Wow.
Let me tell you something. Don't be fooled. Volman is the brains of that operation.
Really?
You know that they own their own master recordings, right?
Yeah, I do know that now,
You know, I remember walking onto the bus one afternoon, and he's on the phone. He goes, oh, that's great. Fantastic. All right. Talk to you soon. Gets off the phone. Eleanor's in an episode of Mad Men. And we were like, yeah. Because that's them getting paid for that.
Good, at last.
And it's a gangster, man. It's
After
unbelievable.
years of, well, I tell you, great. Maybe you spoke Tommy James. Have you ever interviewed him?
No.
It's great. I mean, the great story. Roulette Records and Morris Levy. And, it was gangster run, and the story of '60s pop stars, they never quite got their money. Well, his takes that to the nth degree. Because every time he'd go in and see Morris Levy and say, "Morris, can I get some royalties? I'll buy you a new car, kid." And that was it. And
that's right.
And I mean, his is if you'd written that as a movie,
I know,
it would be too far-fetched.
I know. Well, some of these guys, the stories are pretty crazy. I've got Mark Lindsay from Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Oh, I love Paul Revere and the Raiders. They're nothing in the UK. Never had a hit over there. Never made anything. And I think they're fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Mark Lindsay's been on many of the Happy Together tours. Got a lot of time hanging out with that guy. I've got him on video telling a story. It was very spontaneous. Lindsay had been living in the house where the Manson murders happened. He had been roommates with Terry Melcher, who was a producer, and I got him on video on my phone, spontaneously telling the story about he had been in the house. He'd come home from the road, and there was like a business meeting, because the house was always full of people. And there was some weird guy sitting in the kitchen. And it was oh, don't mind, that's just Charlie, he's all right. Man, and then he had moved out of the house, and then a couple of months later, like a policeman knocks on the door one morning. He says, "Did you used to live at so and so Cielo Drive?" And he goes into this whole story about the Manson murders and how he was like this close to being in the house. It's crazy.
It's interesting because none of the people, I say involved, loosely, none of the people connected to that story will talk about it. They even, a lot of them are dead now, but For years, they wouldn't. I mean, Dennis Wilson, who was a huge Charles Manson fan, used to call him the Wizard. A lot of people say that the Manson murders were kind of what pushed Dennis into drug addiction and alcohol, because
it's entirely possible.
Because he just found it so traumatic that he'd been really close to this guy.
Sure. It's another reason why I like talking to the people who were there.
Yeah.
Because there are as many different people that you meet. There are that many different versions of the history.
I love Mark Lindsay. I love those outfits as well.
Yeah.
I think they look cool. They look wacky and crazy.
Listen, you needed a gimmick in those days. Anything to stand out. And like it or not, that's some of the best American rock and roll of that era. It was one of the few bands that could keep up with the British invasion at that point from America. So I want to talk about 7A Records real quick.
Yeah.
First of all, like I said, we're roughly the same age. How did you first discover the Monkees, and at what point did it become an all-consuming obsession?
The Monkees...
As you're wearing a Monkees t-shirt on right now.
T-shirt.
It's brilliant.
The Monkees in the UK mean something different to America.
Okay, elaborate on that.
Well, I will do. When I was a kid growing up in the 70s and the 80s, every summer holiday, the Monkees were on. 9:25 weekdays, they would show the Monkees for pretty much every year. So before
daytime TV.
Daytime. So we'd have 6-week summer holidays, and they would show kids programs in the morning, Monday to Friday, and 9:25 for as long as I can remember. It was the Monkees. So we never had that 86 revival reunion thing,
right?
Where MTV showed it and it suddenly became hip.
I see.
Monkees were always a backdrop to my youth from the late 70s through the 80s. They were always on. So I loved them, and the first single I ever got, first 2 records I ever got were given to me. I got a record player when I was 5, so 1978. And I didn't have any records. And my mum said, I've got a couple of old records you can have. And it was the Monkees' first album without a cover, so I didn't know what they looked like.
Oh, wow.
And the I'm a Believer Stepping Stone single.
Okay.
And they were the only records I had for ages. So I would just play them obsessively. And then I kind of made the connection between the TV show and that.
Yeah.
So from the age of 5 in 1978, 79, I was kind of hooked.
Yeah.
And then I went off the music. I thought the music was silly, but I liked the show. I thought it was a very funny, stupid show.
Interesting.
I didn't realize it was an old 60s thing. I thought it was kind of current. And it wasn't.
So there was no context for you?
No.
Okay.
None at all.
It was just a thing that was on the TV.
Yeah, it was a kids' TV show.
Right.
From 1979, as far as I was concerned.
Got
it was a kids' TV show.
Interesting. All right.
Then I got into the music when I was it was before the 86 reunion, so it must have been about 1985. It was really good timing. So I was 12, and suddenly the music hit me as going, wow, this is really good.
No, not the same album and single that you had.
Same album and single, which I've still got. My kids have got now.
I
passed them on to my kids.
What condition are they in?
Oh, they're battered. They are. You're talking about the kids or the records?
The records.
The records are in great condition. No, they're battered, but they're beautiful because of it. Their history.
Sure. Right.
So about 12, I kind of started getting into the music.
Yeah.
And so all we could get then were a couple of greatest hits that were out. So I went and bought these greatest hits, and I would play them obsessively. And we had no internet.
So that's when you started hearing the other songs.
Yeah,
now.
so there was nothing about them out there. All I had was a couple of pictures to go on. And then suddenly the 86 reunion happened, and news of it kind of slowly wafted over to the UK.
Right.
And I remember seeing on a TV on a news report, the Monkees have reformed, and they're huge in the States. And they showed like a 20-second clip of this Mickey playing this horrible electronic drum kit with the octagonal drums. I mean, awful drum kit. And
I saw that show.
Really?
I was my first concert.
Wow.
My first live concert. And I remember like him standing at these octopads. I was like, okay. I mean, what are you going to do?
They made a few embarrassing fashion faux pas. Literally, a 20-second clip of Last Train to Clarkson. I was like, my time has come. My time has come. And then, I kind of found a few fan clubs listed in the States, and I sent off letters to those. And slowly, I started to amass You know, their records got re-released on Rhino.
Right.
And it was still hard to get in the UK. They were all imports.
Right. Again, pre-internet. You have to really make the effort.
Yeah. Oh, it was a real effort. And I found a UK fan club and they listed American fan clubs and, boom, I was in.
Okay. If you could distill it down to its essence, what it was that appealed to you about that music the second time around, and to this day, what is it that
I tell you what it was.
keeps you hooked?
I remember exactly what it was the second time around.
Yeah.
I'd liked it as a kid. Then I found the music embarrassing.
Huh?
I know it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then I watched the Captain Kangaroo episode, Captain Crocodile. Where they're on a kids' TV show.
Okay.
And they played Valerie.
Yeah.
And I went. The scales dropped from my eyes. It was like, wow. And Valerie's not the best song, but it was the one that made me go, wow, this is amazing. And I didn't know, the whole manufactured band. I didn't know that they didn't play their instruments on the TV. As far as I was concerned, Mike Nesmith was the coolest person ever in that denim jacket playing the solo to Valerie on a 12-string guitar. Okay.
Right,
but, that was it. It was Valerie was the one where I just went, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's not even it's not their best song by a country mile, but it was the one that got me, where I thought, I have found my band.
All right. But I mean, is there a quality to the music? Is there an optimism, or is it just?
Oh, listen.
Or are you just a fan of that period, the music from that period?
What was interesting was my sister in the 80s was a huge Beatles fan.
Okay.
So we were reliving, the battles that would have happened in '67 in houses across the world, where my sister, who's older, would sneer at me for liking the Monkees when she liked the Beatles. She loves the Monkees. Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Everyone comes around to liking the Monkees.
Always.
Everyone does.
That's right.
I like pop. I like pop music. I like the optimism. I like the joy. I like the sentimentality. I like the sadness. I mean, Shades of Grey. Is there any song more achingly beautiful and poignant?
Yeah.
And the thing about the Monkees for me is it's the combination of voices. The Beatles. There is a similarity in the voices because they come from this same town, so there is a similarity.
That's very true.
But the genius, I think, behind the Monkees' vocal casting is you got a Brit with a kind of strong Manchester accent. You got a Texan
and that kind of nasally vibe.
You got the Texan with the country thing. You got Mickey with the laid back LA thing, and you got Peter with the with the kind of folky thing.
Yeah.
So those voices,
and in different ranges too. Yeah.
Genius, accident. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in essence, for me, the music boils down to it's good. It's good pop, and it's good because of the people that wrote it, the people that sang it,
all the best
and the people
writers
that played
of that era. Sure.
We were in New York, and I've been a few times, but it's still I'm a tourist, and I love it.
Okay.
And we're walking around, and we're kind of looking at where we should go, and I went, "That's the Brill Building." We were stood outside the Brill Building.
Sure.
And the history,
That's right.
Just imagining Neil Diamond walking through those doors to go upstairs to his booth to write "I'm a Believer." 14-year-old Carole King going in there, knocking on doors saying "I'm a songwriter."
Yep.
Just the history of it was incredible.
Yep.
So for me, the Monkees, as pop, now I'm a 44-year-old man.
Yeah.
It reminds me of being a 12, 13-year-old kid. There's that association.
But it still holds up, though.
Oh, the tunes hold up. And what's amazing about the Monkees is all the stuff that never came out. Nesmith's country album he recorded.
I know, yeah.
Imagine, and most people don't know it because it comes out on all these box sets and, these missing links previously unreleased, which generally only the hardcore fans buy.
Right.
Imagine if his country album had come out in '68. Whoa.
Would have been a game changer.
Totally.
Sure. So then that dovetails perfectly into 7A Records.
Yes.
What inspired you to take, because I took my obsession to the next level by becoming a professional musician
and playing with those guys.
Eventually, my first concert, 1986, July, over here at the Pier. Was it Pier 82? I can't even remember. They used to have concerts over here on the Monkees with Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, Herman's Hermits, Rob Grill and the Grassroots.
Yeah.
2010, I'm the bass player for the Happy Together tour.
Do you remember that very first show you did with those guys where you're stood behind
Flo and
Eddie? What did that feel like? The very first one when
Here's
you
the
stood
thing.
there.
By that time, I had already been in the touring sideman world long enough to know how to not go, oh my God, I'm such a fan. Like, I had already been through like the mind fuck of like, how do you deal with Todd Rundgren standing this far from you?
Yeah.
And you're playing his songs with him. How do you not act like a teenage girl when you're playing Live and Let Die with Denny Lane? How do you keep your shit together? So I had already known how to do that. Yeah. So I meet Flo and Eddie. Hey, nice to meet you. Yeah. Bass player, professional. Yep, know the tunes, ready to go. One by one, the first day of rehearsal, we set up in the venue, and like one by one, they bring in the principals. We run their set.
Yeah.
No big mistakes. Good. Next, and then we're on the road playing the show night after night. Rob Grill walks in. Nice to meet you guys. All set. Lindsay walks in. Hey, how's it going? In walks Mickey Dolenz. Haven't met him yet.
Yeah.
And I'd already met Wayne Avers, his guitarist.
Of course, Wayne. I know Wayne. Yeah.
I'd already met Wayne. He's like, yeah, it's going to be great, blah, 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 blah. And I said to Wayne, listen, I'm like a total fanboy, so I'm going to try to keep. He says, dude, I understand. It's fine. A lot of people get like that around him. Don't worry about it. He's really sweet. It's fine. I'm like, okay, fine. In walks Mickey. Hi, Mickey Dolenz. Nice to meet you. And he's meeting everyone. I'm like, hello, professional bass player guy. Nice to see you. So there's this moment where they give Mickey his mic and they're checking his mic and getting the monitor. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2. During this like 3 minutes of sort of lull in the rehearsal, I catch myself like gawking at him, I felt like right before my chin hit my chest. I was like, oh, I gotta like pull it together. I'm like staring at him like, there he is. There's the guy.
Yeah,
like the guy from Head who like blows up the Coke machine with the tank.
Fantastic.
Standing in front of me. I got 5 seconds to pull my shit together. And I knew that my unhealthy obsession with the music is what led me to be able to crush this gig.
Yeah.
Which we did. And he was happy with the way the band sounded. And then we went on from there. And I hope he gets to hear this. Like, I'm still to this day, every once in a while there's a one-off and he'll be on the show and it's like, hey John, good to see you again.
Oh,
hey.
That's great. He's the nicest man in the world.
And I still haven't spent really enough time with him to where I feel like I can totally relax.
Yeah. Last time I saw the Monkees was in London, and he was walking and we were in the front row. I was with my boy who was just about to turn 6, my eldest boy. And Mickey did that thing where he's singing Going Down. Yeah. And I knew that he offers the microphone to an audience member. And so I'm sat there. And we know each other to say hello to.
Right.
Because I put out some of his records. And I'm sitting there just trying to make eye contact.
Right.
And I locked on him. I locked him. And he's singing and he just went, offered me the mic. And I jumped up and I grabbed the mic and I did that. I've been trained my whole life for this moment. I did that second verse of Going Down. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I turned around and I kind of pumped the air because 13-year-old me was.
That's right. That's right.
And I looked and my boy was sat there.
Dad, oh my
God.
God.
His knees up, his hands over his eyes. And at the end of it, I said, you were right. So he went, yeah. I said, what did you think of me singing? He said, I don't know how to explain it. I felt this weird feeling in my stomach. I said, boy, that's embarrassment, and that's my job. I'm doing it properly. You got another 20 years of this.
That's right. Oh, that's beautiful.
I crushed him, and it was great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But well done, you. I mean, you are living the dream with that. That's wonderful.
You know what? I mean, thank you for that. But it's only afterward that I look at pictures of us on stage together. Or one time one of the rare occasions where everyone, principals and band, all flew from one location to another. It was just a travel day. We're waking up, getting into a hotel, airport shuttle, and then a flight, and then a night off. We get to the hotel. I check in. I get a call from Godfrey. He says, hey, man, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in the hotel, some in the room, looking at YouTube videos, but I don't know why. What's going on? He says, well, we're down here in the restaurant. Mickey's telling stories. And like the cartoons where it's like the outline of the guy in the door. I never like made it like through a hotel lobby and into a restaurant so fast.
Fantastic.
And he was just at the head of the table holding court. And I said to him, I said, when I saw Head, it blew me away. And he goes, yep, that movie is the most accurate depiction of the year 1968 that you will ever see. If you want to know what 1968 looked like, that's your movie.
It's a great film.
Yeah. So how did 7A Records start?
Oh, yeah, that was the question, wasn't it?
We went off in a million tangents.
Yeah. Truth be told, I was a bootlegger.
Okay.
And I'd set up a Monkeys Facebook page, Monkey Bootlegs.
Yeah.
And
what was your source, or can you say that publicly?
It was just stuff that I'd collected from since the 80s, cassettes and CDs, and stuff from all over the world. With the invention of Facebook and MySpace and things, it became easy to kind of source this stuff. There were people that had all these rare outtakes and live recordings of varying quality.
Sure.
So I had this thing, and I was just kind of posting rare videos. I collect a lot of I've got loads of VHS tapes of appearances they made in the 70s and 80s.
Sure.
So I was doing that. And then I kind of thought, wouldn't it be nice? Why has no one put out a CD of Mickey's solo singles?
Right.
I had a bootleg copy of all his stuff.
Now, these had been legitimately released at one point, but had been out of print for years and years.
Yeah, and I thought, why has no one done an official CD? So I kind of looked into it, and it was a slow project. It took maybe a year of me because they were all came out on kind of a few MGM and then a Roma and a few of these kind of obscure labels.
Right.
And slowly I managed to track them all down, and MGM, all these companies got bought by different companies that got bought by different companies that got bought by Universal. So eventually I traced that all of them were owned by Universal. So then I started...
And this is you making phone calls on your own? I mean, how are you
this
doing
is just
this?
me sat there Googling. Me sat there Googling and tracing and emailing people and slowly piecing it together.
Did your reputation as a TV presenter help?
It did.
Okay.
Once I found it was all
as
Universal,
opposed to it being some weirdo fan going like, where are the Mickey singles?
I tell you what helped is at the time I was working for the BBC.
Okay.
So, and I can say this now because I don't work for the BBC. When I started emailing Universal saying, I believe you own these records, can you confirm it? I would send it from my BBC email. So it's Ian Lee at bbc.co.uk.
Yeah.
And I'd say, and I was a bit naughty. I would say, I work for the BBC in England.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you owned, which is true, I did.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with them, but I did. I just want to check if you owned. And then there became a 6-month game of email ping pong where someone would say, I don't know if we own these. You need to email this guy.
Right.
This guy would write back saying, you need to write to this woman. Yeah. This woman. And it went back and forth.
Sure.
And eventually I found someone who said, yes, we own them.
Yeah.
Why do you want to know?
Yeah.
And I said, I want to license them to release them as a CD.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, you don't need to be in touch with me. You need email.
Right. This is your licensing person.
Yeah.
Okay.
And eventually the person came back and said, yeah, we own them. We can license them to you. What terms do you want?
Wow.
I don't know. I have no idea what that
At this
means.
point, you've got no 7A anything. You've just...
It's just me. And
just
this is me being a dad and having a job and doing this. Just, I've got an hour free. I'm going to send out some emails. So this took like a year, 18 months.
Right.
So then I went on my Facebook page, the Monkeys Bootlegs Facebook page, and said, guys, I've got a real problem here. I have found out who owns these tracks and they are prepared to license them to me. I haven't got a clue what that means or how to do that. And then a guy called Glenn Gretland, who now runs 7A, sent me an email. I said, look, I've been watching your project for a while, and I wanted to see how dedicated you were.
Right.
And I wanted to see how far you would get with it.
Yeah.
He runs a record label called Not Now Music.
Okay.
He said, this project wouldn't be right for Not Now, but how about we get together and we start a small indie record label and we'll see if we can license these tracks and put them out as a CD.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he said, we need to come up with a name so I can draw up an official looking licensing request.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I don't know who came up with 7A Glenn's not here. I'm going to say it was me.
Okay,
I
good.
honestly don't know.
All right.
And we both went, yeah, fine. Okay, that'll do. That's nice. And
I mean, any self-respecting Monkees fan would get the reference.
Yes. What
Now,
number
was
is this
Glenn
chip?
part of the Facebook
Yeah.
Monkees?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so he was a bit of a fan as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And he lived in the UK. And it turns out we had a friend in common. We may have even met before.
Yeah.
A long, long time ago in the 90s. So we came up with 7A, and Glenn drafted a proposal.
Wow.
Where we offered them real money. And we thought, well, this is never going to... We sent it to them, and they came back, and they said, yeah, okay.
Now, where did this real money come from?
Me and Glenn.
Oh, you just put it up
came from
yourselves?
us. Yeah, it came from us.
No kidding. Okay.
It totally came from us. It wasn't as huge as one might imagine, but it was,
Okay.
it was a lot of money for
Okay.
us.
Yeah.
So we dropped this proposal, and they licensed the tracks, and they said to us, we don't know where we haven't got the masters. They don't exist. So we were going to do the whole album from needle drops, where someone records a record, and then we were going to clean it up.
So you're going to
as
have to
best we
track
could.
down a copy somewhere.
So we had all the songs. We were going to do the needle drops. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but
That's fine.
and this had dragged on for nearly 2.5 years.
Jesus.
And I missed out a bit, which I'll get to in a minute.
Okay.
So we were about to send the tapes we had to mastering, and we got an email from this guy, Rob,
Yeah.
and he said, I think I know where the master tapes are.
Wow.
Can you give me a couple of months? And we're like, we're literally about to send it to the things. I said to him, you got a month. Because I kind of thought it was, I didn't know who this guy was.
Okay.
And he came back, and he works, I don't think I'm supposed to say where he works, so I won't.
Okay.
But he's involved in like logging audio.
Okay.
And he came back and said, right, I believe the master tape, and he was really specific. He said, I know what building they should be in. I know what rack they should be on.
Holy crap.
He knew the exact location. So another game of email tennis with Universal. And eventually someone said, I don't think they're there, but I'll go and look for you.
Uh-huh.
2 days later, we got pictures of the master tapes.
Oh, my God.
And me and Glenn are like, this is incredible.
Not the multi-tracks.
These are not the multi-tracks. These are the mix downs.
Okay.
And he said, I can send you WAV files of these master tapes. It'll be $1,000.
Okay.
We might as well go in another $1,000. We went, here's our $1,000. Send it. And
Sure.
we got the original mix downs for most of the tracks. I think there were 2 we didn't.
Okay.
And they sounded like they'd never sounded before. I mean, this was pristine.
Fresh masters.
So we had these. The bit I've missed out was we decided we were going to do it on vinyl, and we decided we were going to do a booklet.
Yeah.
Loads of things kind of fell into place. There was a guy that had written a book about the Monkees in the 70s, but had never had it published.
Uh-huh.
And he kind of rewrote what he had on Mickey. So suddenly we've got a 15-page booklet, but we had no pictures.
Uh-huh.
And we looking at licensing pictures, and pictures were like, to license, we found one picture which became the cover. To license it was about $1,500.
Right. So that's expensive too. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And we didn't have that money.
Uh-huh.
The picture was by Henry Diltz.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Who, of course, I don't need to tell your listeners this, but he took the front of the Crosby, Stills at first Crosby, Stills Nash album,
Yep.
Doors, Morrison Hotel. He was friends with Mama Cass, hung out with the Monkees.
Sure.
This picture was Mickey from 1968, I think, Henry Diltz. And I said, listen, we've been lucky so far.
Yeah.
I'm going to send Henry an email and see. And I
Right.
sent him an email
Nothing
direct.
to lose. Yeah.
I said, this is, again, from the BBC. I said, Henry, this is the project. We are fans. We are in several $1,000s of our own money. We love this picture. We can't afford it. Is there any way, anything we could do, you could cut us a deal?
What else can... Yeah, exactly.
He wrote back and said, speak to my librarian, my friend, my partner, Gary Strobel.
Right. I know that name.
He's big on he was friends with the Monkees. He's kind of,
Did he write one of the books?
He's written a book. He's been writing a book for a long time.
There was, because he was in, I know that they interviewed him for the Behind the Music.
Yeah. He's kind of hung out with the Monkees. He was a super fan that ended up kind of working with them.
Got it. Okay.
And suffice to say, we got sent 15 pictures of we got that cover. We got sent 15 pictures of Mickey that had never been seen, never been published before, from the 70s.
Wow.
And Mr. Henry Diltz cut us a very favorable. He was so generous to us.
Oh, right.
I mean, we paid him money,
Yeah.
but it was nowhere near the $1,500 it was going to cost us.
Sure.
He was so kind and so generous, and
Beautiful.
we were humbled by it.
Beautiful.
You know? And that's how the first record came out, and that was it. And that was all it was going to be.
This is the Mickey Dolenz MGM
singles collection came out on a vinyl, and it kind of caught the wind. I got interviewed on BBC Radio 4 on their premier arts program, you know, that goes from talking about a play in the West End to me talking about Mickey Dolenz to talking about an exhibition, and it kind of took off, and that was always going to be the one thing we did. But we kind of liked it.
Yeah.
And we've kept making stuff. We haven't made money. In fact, we just had to pay in to the account to pay off some stuff we're doing. We have to pay in another couple of $1,000s. We're kind of almost breaking even. So each project is now sort of paying for the next project.
Right.
Which is a great position to be in.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
We're so proud of the stuff that we're making.
Well, you're also servicing a very specific market.
Yeah.
Monkeys fans.
It's a
obsessive
niche.
Monkeys fans who will buy anything with that word on it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not scraping the bottom of the barrel stuff.
No.
I mean, this is really it's cool stuff.
We have a rule. We both have to agree on it.
Yeah.
And it has to be a record that we would buy. And if one of us goes, I wouldn't buy that, then we don't put it out. It's as simple as that. And and there've been some, you know, quite big things where either Glenn is, and the other one phones up and says, I'm really excited, I've got this, and the other one goes, no, I wouldn't pay for that.
Right.
You know, so and it's now got to the point where we've got we're bringing out our first Michael Nesmith release live in 1975.
Okay.
It's never been released.
Oh, wow.
We've licensed that from him and from the BBC, bizarrely enough.
Yeah.
So that's coming out on a vinyl. We've got Mickey live with the Metropole Orchestra, which happened recently.
Yeah.
And we've bought the rights to the recording of that, and we had it professionally recorded and mastered, and so it's become a thing. It's a thing now. You know, we got our first Davy Jones release where we had a Davy single, and we're working on a couple of albums, live albums to come out. So it's a thing, man. It's happening. You know?
Yeah. And the hardcore Monkeys fan reaction worldwide?
They're so supportive.
Okay.
You know, we couldn't have done this without Facebook, really.
Right.
Because
social media.
Oh, completely.
To the point about how has the business changed.
Yeah.
It's been a huge help for
we can't afford advertising. We haven't got the money for advertising.
Right.
So we're on Facebook. We're dependent on the Zilch Monkeys podcast, Facebook and Facebook groups to kind of spread the word. And everybody has been so kind and spread the word. And here's the thing, dear listener. If you buy something from a small company on Amazon, leave them a good review. Because those good reviews, 4 or 5 stars, and just type in a few words, they make a real difference. If it's a small company, they can make a real difference between someone passing on it or someone going, hey, this thing, I've never heard of this company, and it's a bit niche, but it's got, 3 5-star reviews, and people are saying, I might, it can really swing someone's opinion one way or the other.
I've developed a bit of a Twitter relationship with a company in the UK called Burning Shed.
Is that Andy Partridge?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy Partridge.
They do all the Andy Partridge and all the XTC stuff, and a lot of prog.
Yeah.
King Crimson and Porcupine Tree and all that. And I had written to Andy on Twitter, and I had written like, want to order the 5.1 of Skylarking is at Burning Shed. I forget how I phrased it in 140 characters. If I order it from at Burning Shed, will most of the money go to you?
Yeah.
And Burning Shed wrote back, and they said, yes.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you. And yes, we're the guys that have the direct thing with him. So, I love little labels like that and supporting, and then they write back.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then
and we try and if people email us, they will get me or they will get Glenn, and we reply to all the emails. If we saying that, I'm well worried I've missed some out. If I've not replied, I apologize. we reply to all the emails. We've got a real presence on Facebook, and if people leave comments, we will try and reply to the comments.
Yeah.
Because it's me and Glenn. We haven't got an office, I do it in Starbucks using their Wi-Fi, or I do it at home. We haven't got an office.
There's not a big 7A sign over an office
neon sign over a big steel and glass skyscraper. No, there's not. It's us, and we do it. It's a hobby. You know, we've both got full-time jobs. I'm a radio host and a writer, and Glenn has his real record label, real in inverted commas, and we both got kids and we've got family.
Sure.
But the people that buy from us generally appreciate that, and they appreciate that we are doing this. We could make a lot more money by cutting corners. You know, there are cheaper ways to press CDs. There are cheaper ways to press vinyls.
Right.
We try and have, full color booklets with everything.
Yeah.
We either get people to write essays or we write essays. We have embossed covers. Every embossed cover takes like 15 pence off of what we make on a CD.
Sure.
And also what's interesting is, because we're based in the UK, sometimes the prices on Amazon in the States are higher because they're imports.
Right. The shipping.
Here's the thing. We sell our stock to Amazon, to deep discount, to whatever at the same price. It's Amazon.
Yeah.
They make up the price.
Sure.
They make up the price, you know. So generally, deepdiscount.com is a cheaper place to buy our stuff.
Right.
And so we will hunt for the cheapest place online and send people there because it makes no difference to us. We get whatever we get per album.
You've already made your money because you sold the stock to them.
So to see Amazon put on, sometimes $12-15 on top of what we've been paid, it's like, okay, that's what they do. But so we will hunt for the cheapest place and post. This is the cheapest place we found. I mean, Amazon is convenient and it's great and it's fantastic. And if people want to, people buy my stuff from there, I love it. It's great. But there are cheaper places. And if convenience isn't the key issue, then shop around, look around. Deep Discount is great, by the way.
Okay.
They have our stuff, sometimes cheaper than the UK, and I don't know how they're doing that.
Okay.
But good luck to them.
I mean, you're not in a position, obviously, to fulfill orders on your own.
No, we really looked at it. We've really looked at because we'd make more money,
sure,
which would then go into the next things. We just can't do it at the moment because it would take up too much time. It will be too time consuming.
And now you do the dedicated office space, storage,
and if there was if sometimes there's an issue when you send stuff, particularly international, it gets damaged, and then we'd have to deal with returns.
And now you're doing,
and we can't do it. We can't do it. Maybe one day, but not now. No.
Okay. So then on deck, you've got the Nesmith live thing.
Nesmith live. We've got Mickey Dolenz live with the Metropole. We've got Mickey live in Japan, 1982.
Wow.
Which we've got a soundboard recording of that. And this is all stuff is licensed. We pay Mickey. We again, another thing I should stress is we pay the artists. We don't pay them a lot because there's not a lot of money in CDs.
Right.
But we with the estate of Davy Jones and with Nesmith and with Dolenz, we have to run everything past him.
Sure.
We get their approval, and if they were to say, I don't like that, some of the things we could still put out without their approval, but it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't feel right. And we pay them. We pay them a fair percentage,
fair relative to
we're
printing up 1,000 of these or 5,000 of these. I mean, these are limited runs to begin
and
with.
And they get money in, which is we are giving money direct to the artist.
That's beautiful.
Which is what I think is really important. And there have been some things we've released where actually we didn't need to.
Okay.
But it wouldn't feel right to put out something by Mickey Dolenz and not make a few quid out of it.
Of course.
So
I mean, if you're making money off of it, why not?
We're making fortunes. I need to go outside and light another cigar in a second.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time and
by the way, I want to say
around.
there is a CD we've got out where we don't make any money. The Listen to the Bands. It's 25 Monkeys cover versions.
Yes.
And people's hearts sink kind versions, really.
Yeah.
But two reasons you should buy it. One, all the profits go to the Davy Jones Equine Memorial Foundation, which kind of helps look after his horses that were left. And two, it's fucking brilliant.
Yes, it is.
All of the songs on there are superb. And you have a song on there, which is As We Go Along, which is one of the best Monkey songs that hardly anyone knows.
I was really afraid when I said that's the one I want to do. Please tell me that no one else has done this track, because then I got to go into aggressive Sicilian Brooklyn. No, I'm doing that song.
I'm doing this song.
I'm doing this. Hey, guess what? Yeah, but I was really please make that.
We were so lucky.
Yeah.
In the songs that were submitted, there weren't that many crossovers.
Okay.
There weren't that many.
Yeah.
and yours was brilliant. I mean, I'm not just saying
Thank you very much.
Yours is brilliant. So to meet you in face to face is a thrill, and we got it. And I remember listening to it and sending it to Glenn, saying, "Glenn, you got to listen to this." But there are some really good stuff in there. Your song is a standout. I'm going to say songs and I'm going to forget people, but there's an amazing version of If I Ever Get to Saginaw Again, followed by the version of Hanging Round. And it's just like, the Flash Cubes doing She, the characters doing Look Out, Here Comes Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
My friend Scott doing Randy Scouse Git. And every song on there, you know, is just delightful.
I finally had a chance to listen to it in the car. On my way to a gig a few nights ago.
What do you think? You
in the car? Oh, yeah. I mean, it was great to hear all those songs again and hear like new singers on them. But it really struck me like how many different musicians all over the country have been hit by this music. You can tell in the way people were covering these songs, how like the bass player would pick up the little bass riff. You know, even as they would try to maybe not do it identical, there were enough little details,
flashes.
Like, you could tell these people were as obsessed as I was.
Of all the stuff I've put out, it's my 5-year-old son's favorite.
Okay.
And he now...
Interesting.
My 5-year-old now goes... if I'm not looking at him, he'll go, "Daddy," and I'll turn around, he'll go, "Listen to the band." Little 5-year-old kid, you know. He's singing the line, "Hey, hey, mercy woman," my boy. And it's just like,
nice.
I'm bringing my children up correctly.
You're doing
they
right.
are doing well.
Beautiful.
Hey, listen, I have to go because I've got to go and meet Kath.
That's
I hope
all right.
she's still alive.
I think we're just about finished here. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure,
for your time.
man. Thank you for showing an interest. I appreciate your support.
Anytime. We'll stay in touch for sure.
Radio 418.
Don't give up just before the miracle, folks. If I'd gone back to Brooklyn, this conversation wouldn't have happened. I'm glad I hung out in the city long enough because he's a great guy, and I had a great time finally meeting him face to face. You can go to 7arecords.com to follow what they're up to. You follow them on Facebook, facebook.com/7arecords. Follow them on Twitter @7arecords, and do check out Listen to the Bands. I'm on it, of course, but all these other cover versions are just tremendous. If you like this music, if you love this music like I do, you're really going to love hearing all these people interpret these songs. A lot of love went into this thing, and it really comes across. So check it out. The website for the podcast is radio418.com. You can follow me on Twitter @JohnMon, JONMON. You can follow me on Instagram, John Montagna. Follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/radio418. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/John Montagna Music. But anything and everything you want to know about me and what I'm doing is on my website, johnmontagna.com. Thank you so much for listening to Radio 418. Come back again. I'll see you on the next one. Be well.